The ideas expressed in City Club forums are those of the speakers and not of the City Club of Cleveland, IdeaStream Public Media, or their sponsors. Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland, where we are devoted to creating conversations of consequence that help democracy thrive. It's Tuesday, April 1st, and I'm Ethan Karp, President and CEO of Magnet, and honored to introduce today's forum, which is part of the City Club's Workforce Development Series in partnership with the Deaconess Foundation. I also promised that I would do no April Fool's jokes to Michelle here on the podium, so she's spared that. She's spared that. Dan might have suggested I hide her speech or something, you know. In December of 2024, the Cleveland Cuyahoga County Workforce Development Board rebranded under a new name, Greater Cleveland Works. The rebranding reflected the organization's transformation from a government entity to a nonprofit, and also launched an expanded vision and renewed commitment to empowering job seekers, supporting employers, and driving economic growth in Northeast Ohio. Our speaker today, Michelle Rose, was appointed as CEO of Greater Cleveland Works by Mayor Justin Bibb in 2022. Prior to this, Michelle served as Acting Assistant Secretary of Labor for Congressional and Intergovernmental Affairs in the first year and a half of the Biden administration. Other prior experiences include serving as Chief of Staff to U.S. Deputy Labor Secretary Chris Liu, and nearly 6 years as a Senior Legislative Officer in the Office of Congressional Affairs at the Labor Department. These are just a few of the many things that she's done, and now through Michelle's leadership, a new nonprofit structure, a new strategy, and a new brand, Greater Cleveland Works is reinventing its role. I've been the proud board chair of this organization for the last 5 years, and I can tell you that when we began these transformations, the ones that Michelle has ushered in, is because the workforce development boards in general are such a crucial part of the workforce ecosystem. They serve as liaisons between federal and local governments and distribute public dollars to support job seekers and employers. Yet their work can be, and often is, opaque and misunderstood. They are more than just job matchmakers. They are engines of opportunity, innovation, ensuring that businesses have the skilled workers they need and communities have pathways to prosperity. With more than 10,000 people served annually by this organization, a $20 million budget, Greater Cleveland Works is the largest workforce development organization in the county. And I know that our work at Magnet to fill all these manufacturing jobs, the ones that we have a shortage in, has already benefited from the changes and transformation underway. I do want to express some particular gratitude and personal gratitude to the Deaconess Foundation, our sponsors today, in particular to their CEO, Kathy Belk, who's really been a partner to me on the board of Greater Cleveland Works with Michelle, the mayor, the county executive, councils, the business community, many board members in this room, our chambers, our business community, all of whom come together to make real systems change like you're going to hear about today happen. So it is today that we have the privilege to hear from Michelle directly on the critical role of this organization, the potential impact of federal funding instability, and why now, more than ever, we must advocate for the resources that build careers, strengthen industries, and future-proof our economy. Members and friends of the City Club of Cleveland, please join me in welcoming Michelle Rose.
Thanks for not stealing my speech. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much to the City Club for hosting me today. It's a true honor to be here. To my board, to my staff, and all of our provider, employer, and community partners here today. Your presence is evidence that workforce development truly is a team effort. Thank you also to several members of my family for always showing up, and thank you, Ethan, for the kind introduction and for not stealing my speech. As noted, I'm Michelle Rose. I have the great honor and pleasure of leading Greater Cleveland Works. I'll get to the details of all of this, everything that this organization is in just a minute, but first I wanted to set the tone for today. If you have been around me for really any amount of time at all, you know that I am a big Swiftie. On Taylor Swift's 2022 album Midnights, there is a song, the one that spawned the friendship bracelet phenomenon, that ends with these lines, and I'm not gonna sing them. You're on your own, kid. Yeah, you can face this. You're on your own, kid. You always have been. Now, it's highly unlikely that Taylor was referring to the local delivery of workforce services when she wrote the song. Nevertheless, this refrain perfectly sums up both the challenge and the opportunity we have before us as a mid-sized city in 2025. These are no doubt trying times for federal funding, for public service, for the goals of economic mobility, racial equity, and inclusion. The future is uncertain, and it feels like we are largely on our own. But Taylor was reassuring us that we have actually always been on our own, and there is incredible power and freedom and opportunity inherent in that. Our community has had what it's needed to succeed all along. I like this Taylor Swift quote, among many others, because it reminds me of another quote about being arbiters of our own fate. The words of former President Barack Obama, whose administration I served in for 8 years. This is gonna sound familiar, I bet. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. My intent today is to introduce you to Greater Cleveland Works, set forth our vision for the workforce development system in Northeast Ohio, and leave you with a clear sense of how we can work together in this moment to achieve greater prosperity in our region. For all intents and purposes, Greater Cleveland Works is a completely new organization, and yet we've been here all along. We were formerly known, as Ethan mentioned, as the Cleveland Cuyahoga Workforce Development Board. Great name, huh? A government entity that was jointly staffed and governed by the City of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County. We are one of the largest recipients of federal dollars in our community, receiving roughly $14 million from the federal government every year. In coordination with our partners, many of whom are in this room, we served more than 11,000 people last year and are on track to surpass that this year. Workforce boards are a crucial part of the public workforce system, first established by federal legislation in the 90s. There are nearly 600 of these unique entities in communities across the country. The boards are composed of employers, labor unions, educators, elected officials, community-based organizations, and foundations. The mandate of boards is to distribute federal workforce dollars for training, job support, and more, and operate the local one-stop center, which in Ohio is called Ohio Means Jobs. Ours is at 1910 Carnegie. Please come visit us. And while their core purpose is coordinating the delivery of workforce development services across the county using federal and state funding, workforce development boards are designed to do so much more. They're meant to serve as a bridge between different groups, convening and collaborating with diverse stakeholders, providing thought leadership around critical issues, and advising economic and community development efforts. And they are meant to develop strategic priorities for the workforce system to align around and set a bar, a high one, for outcomes. When I was hired by Mayor Justin Bibb and the Workforce Board in 2022, after spending 9 years at the Labor Department across 2 different administrations, it was clear to me that the Cleveland Cuyahoga Workforce Development Board was a largely underutilized asset that was nowhere near fulfilling its potential. Through a series of surveys, focus groups, and interviews with job seekers, employers, workforce development partners, board members, and staff, we received feedback that was tough to swallow, but necessary to hear. The analysis revealed gaps in customer service, unnecessarily complex processes, inefficiencies, a reputation as an ineffective partner, and a general misunderstanding of who we are and what we do. That shouldn't come as a surprise to most of you. It didn't really come as a surprise to me, but the prescription was clear. What we needed was a reduced bureaucracy, increased flexibility, and more capacity. This led our board to ask some tough questions. What outcomes are we trying to achieve? How do we build a culture of continuous improvement that leads to achieving those outcomes? And how do we create a sustained pipeline of talent for employers? What does a healthy workforce system look like? To be clear, our workforce board was not alone in facing these challenges. Across the country, most boards have made this decision to transition from a government entity to an independent nonprofit for some of the same reasons we did. Becoming a nonprofit, I learned during my time at the Labor Department, would enable the organization to be nimbler, raise additional resources beyond a single government source, and take more risks. In other words, to innovate. If we were going to do better, we had to start from the ground up. It was time to overhaul our structure, adopt an ambitious strategic plan, and give ourselves a name that people could both remember and come to rely on. This isn't to say that the nonprofit transition was without risk. I want to thank our board and the county executive, Chris Ronayne, and Mayor Bibb for encouraging this innovation, and for the staff members who took the leap with us and made it work. It would have been easier to stick with the old system and to try to make it work. I know now for sure that this risk was well worth taking. Last July, we officially became a nonprofit. In December, our board adopted a new name and this strategic plan, which set out to answer those big questions. The name is a very external representation of our reinvention, but the plan really gets at the core of our transformation. So let me lay this out. Right now, in Cuyahoga County, we have 150,000 job postings. Roughly 22,000 individuals are not working that want to be. 20,000 high school students and 12,000 college students are about to graduate. And a patchwork of literally thousands of organizations provide workforce services. We also know that stark gaps exist and persist when we look at wages and earnings and opportunities by race and gender. Our vision is to reduce racial disparities, create the skilled workforce companies need to grow, and drive our region's economic competitiveness while being steady in the storm. And we're going to do all this while making the whole system smarter, better, and easier to use. How are we going to do this? It's a lot. How are we going to improve outcomes, make deeper connections, and ensure we all thrive? Our plan focuses on 4 strategic pillars: operational excellence, economic competitiveness, workforce system funding and capacity, and ecosystem effectiveness. These pillars reinforce each other, each one laying the groundwork for the next. Our first order of business is getting our own house in order to ensure our primary customers, job seekers, and employers have what they need to succeed. When we think about operational excellence, we think about developing raving fans among these core audiences. We don't want to just be the first organization that people think of to come to find their next job or seek training, or that employers think of to find talent. We want to be someone they recommend to their friends, just like their favorite restaurant. So how do we develop raving fans? We need to be ruthless about creating a simple customer journey and continuously improving our services by focusing on our core customers. We also know that we can't be everything to everyone all the time and do it well. So we must learn what services lead to what outcomes and adapt, focusing in on where we can drive the highest value for job seekers and employers. One area where we know we can provide added value for employers is by supporting our community's growth efforts in a more strategic and proactive way. Under our economic competitiveness pillar, we are working more closely with chambers, economic development, and community development partners to identify opportunities and fill gaps to support the retention, growth, and attraction of employers to Cuyahoga County. Too often, workers are afterthoughts to the big deals that bring a new company to town or drive the hard decisions that drive closures. With our broad reach and ability to do large-scale recruitment, training, and more, we're a natural partner. We can assist with job design, connect employers to our job seeker pool, provide funding for training, and create training pathways that meet the need of high-demand sectors. Our third pillar is workforce system funding and capacity. This is a new area of focus for our organization. What this means is that we intend to grow the pie of funding flowing into our community to support training and employment and drive a more prosperous economy. Our workforce system is overflowing with well-intended organizations, ideas, and connections. Collectively, it is our desire to get more people into good jobs, grow businesses, and increase economic mobility, right? That's very easy, no small feat. But what I'm here to ask you for is that we want you to think of us as a resource that can convene partners, pursue new opportunities, generate ideas, bring models into our community, win funding, and manage grants, all to enable you to continue to do the work you do well and for all of us to thrive. We recognize that to do this, we must uphold our values of equity, integrity, and accountability, and continue to build trust and deliver results. This work feeds into our fourth and final pillar, ecosystem effectiveness. A natural extension of growing our system's funding and capacity is understanding what works and then scaling initiatives that result in improved effectiveness. To do that, we need greater clarity around what is happening in our system. We are about to embark on a major data reform effort to bring greater clarity around our system's outcomes. In the coming year, we will be working closely with many of you here to move us all toward a shared definition of success. In a nutshell, our strategy is about leading the way to a more effective workforce system. But I'm not here today to crown us the leader. We know we have to earn that right and earn your trust. I'm here today to tell you, we see you and we are here for you in ways we have not been or weren't able to be before. We might be on our own, but the we is collective. So what does that look like in practice? Let me provide you with 3 examples. Whoops. The first example is how we can move quickly and leverage our position to assist more people. We recently announced a rapid response hub for public servants. This is not as much a new concept or initiative as it is positioning what we already offer in a way that is relevant and impactful for our community. Cuyahoga County is home to around 15,000 federal employees, a significant number of workers who are facing job loss and uncertainty. Mayor Bibb approached us to see what we could do to ensure these neighbors feel supported during this time of uncertainty. We moved quickly to mobilize partners and resources to support these impacted workers, as well as those in the private sector on federal contracts and grants. The impact is widespread. The beauty of this hub is that it's a collection of services we already provide to dislocated workers. We didn't have to create anything new, but we can respond to the current need in a way that is targeted and yet also reminds everyone that we exist for moments like these, when you need help finding your next move. We can and will do that for anyone. The next example is how we are bringing in new resources and innovating in ways that can be replicated and scaled across our community. You may have heard or seen information about the Built Environment Collaborative. Shout out to all the Built Environment Collaborative partners who are here today. Table 11. It has been a joy. It has been a joy. I drew up the concept for this initiative, complete with stick figure construction workers, on the back of an agenda at a conference in September 2022. It brings me extraordinary pride that today it's a living, breathing effort supported by a $10 million investment from the city of Cleveland, with more than 1,000 Clevelanders enrolled in training in the skilled trades. I want to mention 3 young people whose careers have been changed by this programming. Courtney Slanker has spoken at our events before about her journey to become an iron worker. Towards Employment, our community's gold standard for serving those with a criminal record, worked with Courtney to cultivate her interests and support her journey. Courtney's hard work and dedication are now being put to good use at one of the largest projects in the city, the construction of Cleveland Clinic's Neurological Institute. There's also Xavier. Xavier is an inside wireman first-year apprentice with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Xavier is a Cleveland resident and came with me almost 2 years ago to help convince our city council to invest in our project. Thanks again for the assist, Xavier. It has been great to see your career progress. And Whitney Phillips. I really like this story. Whitney had recently been laid off when she found herself at the right place at the right time, pumping gas alongside Cleveland Build's Director of Placement, A.C. Fenderson, who asked her if she'd ever thought about the trades. After going through the Cleveland Build's program, she became a union carpenter with Turner Construction. Part of the reason I like this story is it also highlights the workforce development professionals like AC and many others who do this critical work day in and day out. It is a hard job. They do it at our job center and community centers and libraries, at our community college, and yes, even sometimes the gas station. Cleveland residents like Courtney, Xavier, and Whitney are building and remaking the city around us, and I'm so proud to have supported them with training, coaching, and supportive services available to all built environment participants. This is things like childcare, transportation assistance, and equipment and tools. We're also supporting small minority-owned construction businesses to ensure growth and opportunity is widespread. I could talk all day about the Built Environment Collaborative, and I often have, and some of you have heard me do that, but I only have 25 minutes for this speech, so I'll emphasize this. Implicit in this grant from the City of Cleveland was validation of our organization's efforts to be a more effective partner and do things differently. And an endorsement of our ability to execute big, visible projects. The real work of enrolling residents, supporting them to succeed in training and employment, and diversifying work sites across Greater Cleveland is happening because of our partners who also took a chance on us. I hope that the vision I'm laying out today seems possible, Table 11, based on our experience together in this collaborative. And the third example today exemplifies how we are asserting standards that can improve the system as a whole. How do we fill all of those open jobs I mentioned earlier? How do we meet the needs of employers? One way is by designing and filling training programs in partnership with those employers. That is amongst our most important responsibilities and opportunities. Another path is to ensure better connections and referrals within the ecosystem. We're also working on that. But there's also a third way. I have a firmly held view, a view that drove my desire to want this job in the first place, that this labor market dynamic is also a way to fundamentally improve the quality of work for more people. And it will result in better job matching and retention. This year, Greater Cleveland Works will assert and share a job quality framework, a menu of options that allows individual employers to pursue practical changes in alignment with what workers want. Whether it's career development, safety and job security, respect and inclusion, or of course, higher wages, job quality is going to look different for different employers and sectors and workers, but it is ultimately knowable and measurable. We will then apply these standards to our own work in making decisions about partnerships and incentives. And as a system, we will use this job quality framework to understand if we're making progress on key economic indicators like supply-demand gap, wage growth, and retention. I believe that employers inherently want to be good employers, but don't always have the capacity or resources to figure out what that means or how to implement it. A clear and common definition of job quality benefits employers immensely through reduced turnover costs and ultimately stronger and happier workplaces. I hope I've given you a clear sense of where we're headed and what our capabilities are. This all sounds great, right? Everyone good? You might be thinking, yes, but what about the giant elephant in the room? When am I going to get to the part where I talk about how we're primarily federally funded and that our primary funding source has been decreased bit by bit each year and we're always having to do more with less? When am I going to bemoan that our very existence is under existential threat? I'm not, or at least not right now, maybe later in the Q&A. I don't want to downplay the detrimental impacts of everything that is happening right now in the federal government. I would never do that. The public servants we talked about right here in our community, the tariffs causing job loss right here in our county, the shutoff of critical food supply, the attacks on diversity and inclusion. It is scary and it is sad, but change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. And so I'm not going to dwell. I'm here to encourage us to stay steady in the storm and do the work in front of us. And when all is said and done, I'm optimistic that workforce development and job training programs that further our economic competitiveness will be considered an untouchable and essential public service, safe from elimination. At this moment, it actually feels like a stroke of good luck that workforce development is inherently a local endeavor. And it has traditionally been bipartisan. The new Secretary of Labor, at least, seems to understand the importance of federally supported and locally driven infrastructure, and workforce boards across the country are united in communicating our clear value. With a focus and the support of our workforce providers, employers, economic development partners, city and county, and the trust of our job seekers and workers, we can achieve all of the things we've set out to do. After all, we're on our own, kids. What is your role? in all of this? What is our work together? What can you do to support a strong and well-functioning and dynamic workforce system? My answer to that is 3 requests. Tell us how we're doing. We can only deliver on these promises of exceptional customer service if we get honest and direct feedback. I promise we can take it. Include us in your growth plans. Need to hire 200 workers? Unsure how to train your workforce to add a new product line? We have the data, the people power, and the bandwidth to support your business. And third, bring your workforce challenges and ideas to us. We can innovate in ways we were never able to before. We can convene and rally partners. We can pursue flexible funding. We can make big bets on your behalf. Well, actually, I have a 4th request. Leave with one of these awesome Greater Cleveland Works friendship bracelets inspired by Taylor Swift. They're out in the lobby. So I shared a lot today about our role as a system leader, our vision of an equitable and vibrant Greater Cleveland where people from all backgrounds have quality jobs and employers are thriving, and how we hope to work with each and every one of you to achieve all of that. We all thrive when Greater Cleveland works. Thank you for your time today and for the work we'll do together.
What does the friendship bracelet say?
Greater Cleveland Works.
It says Greater Cleveland Works. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was going to say on your own. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Malthrop. I'm the chief executive here. Michelle Rose. So we are about to begin the audience Q&A. And as I mentioned, we're joined by Michelle Rose. She's CEO of Greater Cleveland Works. We welcome questions from everyone, City Club members, guests, as well as those joining via our live stream at cityclub.org, and also members of the Hagen family. If you'd like to text a question for Michelle Rose, please text it to 330-541-5794. The number again is 330-541-5794. And our colleagues will try to work it into the program. May we have our first question, please?
Yes, we're going to start with a text question. How will Greater Cleveland Works interface with public schools, especially CMSD and community colleges such as Tri-C and others?
Great question, thank you. You didn't hear me talk a lot today about the difference between adult and youth workforce services. I want them all to be very high quality, but one thing we definitely have going for us in this area is a really robust number of leaders and intentions and plans around engaging high school students to get them into good jobs. Some of those partners are here today. Greater Cleveland Career Consortium is here. Chief Pomeranz from the city of Cleveland. I'm sure there are other districts here as well. And this is essential. We cannot, I mentioned in my speech, 20,000 high school students throughout the county are graduating, and not all of them will go to college. And that's a good thing. Not everybody should go to college. There are so many good jobs available that don't require a college degree. And I want to make sure that those high school students have the awareness and the opportunity to understand what is of interest to them, what is a fit for their skills, and then move right into those jobs that don't require a college degree. So we do work with all of the schools through these intermediaries we talked about, and with Tri-C, who is an essential partner for everything that we do. We're very lucky to have Shauna Marbury on our board, and Tri-C really is and can be the training provider of choice for so many of these sectors and employers who need their future workforce.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
We have a General Assembly that's doing everything they can to erase equity. So talk about some of the strategies that you're using. You mentioned racial disparities. Some of the strategies that you're using to try to work through those racial disparities. Just a couple strategies.
Yeah. So I'll say a few things. We are not subject to the recent state law that passed that bans these bad words in our community. We are subject to the Labor Department guidance, which has not come and maybe never will. Equity is one of our core values. We are not changing that unless our federal funding is at real risk. because this is an important way of how we approach this work. So I'll say first that we're not backing down from that commitment that our board and our staff have made to the community in which we serve. We operationalize that in many ways. One is trying to be everywhere we can be to meet residents where they are. So I encourage everyone to come to our job center at 1910 Carnegie. There are lots of other places that we are. And we need help too from community partners to get more places. So we are at libraries and community centers, but we want to be more places. And so I think that's a really important way to get to more residents and ensuring that our customers are an accurate representation of the demographics in the county. The other thing that we've done is intentionally design the Built Environment Collaborative. That's the $10 million to enroll 3,000 Clevelanders into the skilled trades to ensure that those opportunities disproportionately go to Black Clevelanders, Latinx Clevelanders, and women, so that we are ensuring that as we grow the workforce, we are also diversifying it. Thanks.
So we have another text question. What is Greater Cleveland Works doing to prepare for the increase in downtown workforce with the upcoming opening of the new Sherwin-Williams building, specifically around janitorial and hospitality services? And then on the flip side, are you seeing any challenges with the threat of Brown Stadium leaving downtown?
I love Sherwin-Williams. They're such a good company. So I think that this question doesn't quite feel like it's for me, but I'm gonna make a distinction about what we do. So we serve employer customers who come to us and need help hiring. So if that is Sherwin-Williams or the subcontractors they use for their janitorial services, for example, we will work with them to find workers who are interested in that work and make that connection. What we aren't is job creators. So the decisions that the Browns make or the hiring decisions that Sherwin-Williams or any employer makes aren't really ours to say. What we simply do is connect employers who want to hire to workers who want to work there. And if that is downtown, great, but we will do it anywhere across the county.
I am so excited to hear more about the
Hi,
Built
John.
Environment Initiative. Traditionally, in the traded sector, those are really well-paying jobs, but they have not been accessible to women and people of color in particular. Can you talk about, you hinted at it, but I'd love to know more about how you're trying to address that gap.
Yes, through very intentional outreach and growing that top of the funnel of who we engage to enroll in these programs, and then ensuring, which I'll talk more about, but ensuring that also the training and ultimately the employment is inclusive. Because it's one thing to diversify an industry, it's another for it to actually be inclusive and welcoming to the people that we've just asked to take these jobs. So yes, some of these skilled trades have not always been welcoming to people of color and women. We don't want to flood the market with people who are going to find themselves unhappy, but that are prepared. And so it really is incumbent upon our relationship with employers to make sure we're being thoughtful about that, which ties to the job quality framework I mentioned, which just ensures that employers are thinking about what does inclusion look like at my work site, and then also, you know, for us, applying standards of job quality to work with someone. We don't have to work with everyone if they're not a good employer. And so I think that, you know, we want to apply that same lens to the Built Environment Collaborative as well. But part of the reason we designed the Built Environment Collaborative the way we did with so many partners that, again, table 11, are here, is so that we could have the Spanish American Committee reaching out in their community and enrolling more Hispanics into the skilled trades. And same with Urban League is here, and we have HHW, which stands for Hard-Hatted Women, doing specific outreach to get more women into the skilled trades. So it really starts with really intentional engagement, but it can't stop there. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Kate.
Thank you for your leadership in this space. My question is about our economic competitiveness in Cleveland. I'm curious if you could highlight one or two things that you think are maybe underrated that make Cleveland competitive, and also maybe some challenges in that space where we have trouble competing for workers or businesses, and maybe what you're thinking about in terms of addressing those challenges.
Yeah. Well, I literally can't think of anything that would make Cleveland not a great place to live and work. I'm very grateful for the work of the Cleveland Talent Alliance and Destination Cleveland to market us as a place to live and work. But when it comes to talent, to business attraction efforts, we're also reliant on Team Neo. I'm not sure if Team Neo is here, to help make that case for us. I view our role in that conversation as, if you are a company that's thinking about opening a location in Cuyahoga County, or expanding here, or moving all of your operations, in fact, to Cuyahoga County, I want to be ready with what we provide to help them make that decision. So very proactive and engaged partnership between my team and the economic development partner. So in that case, it could be the city or county or Team Neo, anyone having conversations about these deals. And we're starting to get there, I think. We've had some successes about being integrated into those conversations, and we'll actually be making a hire in the coming months called a manager of employer solutions that is going to do exactly that. It is the external face of our organization to employers, to remind employers, if you want to locate here but you think you need 500 people with this skill set, here is the pool you can access, here is the training you can access, and here are the incentives that might be available should you make this decision. And having that package ready for any employer who wants to come here.
Good afternoon. It's been amazing to see how the work that your organization is doing is touching the lives of children. In our community, you very briefly mentioned childcare. We've also been excited about what you're doing with regard to building the behavioral health workforce for young people. And so realizing that those are often seen as part of the social service sector and not perhaps the more traditional corporate sector where workforce has been emphasized. How are you seeing Greater Cleveland Works expand out to really be a support to the social service sector as well?
Yeah, I think there are a number of ways. You mentioned the behavioral health workforce piece, and I want to talk more about that because it wasn't in my speech. And thank you, Marcia, for all of your support and many people in this room to do that. Last year, we hired a director of the Youth Mental Health Workforce Collaborative. Again, not the best name, but we're working on it. And the idea was, like any problem that employers face, the employers are better off if they work together to address their workforce challenges than if they tried to do it on their own, and there's help we can provide to do that. So Crystal, since starting this job, has really explored what are all the workforce development and retention strategies to grow that workforce so that children have access to care. That's the ultimate end goal. I can't change the way Medicaid reimburses, nor would I try, but I can try to get more people doing this work so that there's a shot that more young people have access to a therapist. We also, as I mentioned, do work with the schools to start young people thinking early about what they want to do with their careers. And I also want to mention that we are a partner at the Greater Cleveland Food Bank Community Resource Center, where we're also reaching more families with children and making sure that the adults in that household have access to career services. So I view us very much as a social service organization, and one of the ways we do that is by making sure families have jobs where they can thrive, good jobs, not just any job. And then lastly, I want to talk for a second about childcare, because I think some of our Early Matters friends are here today. Childcare is the one thing we have to fix if any of this is going to get better. It's very, yes, thanks. I think we all know that. I think you all know I have 3 young kids. I can't imagine how hard it is for people with less privilege and resources than me to try to succeed at a job or in training. And we also know at this point that help is not coming from the federal government on childcare. So what are the solutions here in our community that we can pursue together? Again, we're on our own kids, but we can do this. I think what we need in our community is an employer champion or set of employer champions who are willing to try some new things to make sure childcare is more available to their current and their future workforce. Because remember, we don't even know the number, well, we sort of do, but we don't even know the number of people who are not pursuing work and filling all of these open jobs because they simply don't have access to childcare. So that is the magic wand I would wave if I could.
Michelle.
Hi.
Hi. I can't think of an employer that I'm aware of that doesn't complain that they don't have enough staff. They can't find people. So I'm curious, are they all your clients? I mean,
No, hardly any of them are, actually.
Well, put differently, why are they not all your clients? I mean, every employer I know says, I can't get people. And so I'm just curious as to why they aren't lining up one after the other to walk into Greater Cleveland Works.
Well, thank you. It feels like you heard my speech. There are so many reasons for that. Well, so one thing I hope you heard today is that we are an underutilized resource still. It drove our nonprofit transition and our rebrand, but not enough people know who we are. And we do serve many employers, but not enough. And there are other ways to address the shortage. So as I said, 150,000 job openings in our community. Those might not be all entirely real, but that's a lot. And it's spread across employers and it's spread across sectors, but we do know some things about the demand. We see a lot of demand in manufacturing, healthcare, tech jobs, behavioral health, construction. We know where the big gaps are. And so we attack those gaps by training programs through the connections I mentioned. I think job quality will help close that gap and giving workers a better sense. Because I think to close that gap, both workers and employers need to come closer together. It's not one side or the other. But yes, we would love every employer, instead of maybe complaining, come to us and we'll share our services with you.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
You talked a little bit about the training programs that you have in place, and you have community partners. Can you talk about what they're training these workers or future workers to do, and then like what's the levels, right? Are you looking at starting in a factory, doing construction, or are you going higher to do training in leadership, training for, more high-tech jobs, et cetera?
Yes, all of the above. So as I just said, there are specific programs of focus in manufacturing, healthcare, construction, and tech jobs because that's where the highest demand is. But those openings are spread across the level, from entry level to advanced degrees. At Greater Cleveland Works and Ohio Means Jobs, we tend to serve people with less experience and less education, but we can serve everyone across the education and experience continuum. But what we care about is when we invest in someone's training, and hopefully the wraparound supports that they might need to succeed in that training, that we are putting them into a path with upward mobility and in a field of demand. So, for example, if a young person came to us and said they wanted to be a YouTube influencer, we can't pay for their training for that. But if they wanted to become a welder, that feels like a better investment for us. So there is a sense of demand and career pathways that is very important when we think about what to prioritize. But it's everything, really. I mean, there are openings across every sector. Thanks.
Hey,
Hi,
Michelle.
Chris. How are you?
Good. I'm from Table 11. So my name is Chris Nance. I'm with the Greater Cleveland Partnership, and just to cut to the end, this is ultimately going to be a question, Michelle, about the challenges and the opportunities of real collaboration, right? So the work that we've been doing, as Michelle and maybe some of you aren't as familiar with, Michelle mentioned that there is a business development component as a part of the built environment collaboration. and the GCP, along with the Urban League and the Construction Assistant Association, are working on that business development piece. So if you could describe, Michelle, we've been at this for 2.5, 3 years, right? We often talk about public-private collaboration, but actually doing it is a whole nother thing. Could you share a little bit about some of the things that we've done and kind of work through to make sure that the work we in fact are connected to your point about outcomes, generating the outcomes that our plan set out to accomplish? Thanks.
Yeah, so as I mentioned thanks Chris for the question and for your partnership. As I mentioned in the Built Environment Collaborative section, we were all a little bit out on a limb together in this new kind of partnership. And I appreciate the true collaboration between all of us and a recognition that someone had to be a hub of this work and a coordination of this work, a coordinator. And that was us. And I think it's been working pretty well, but again, kind of, it's up to you guys to tell me that. We cannot do this work alone. So kind of back to Mara's question, which is, what are we actually doing? So at our center, there's 10 of us who work at Greater Cleveland Works, that's table 14. And most of our work is done through contracted providers. And there are both service providers who help someone with job coaching, and there are training providers like Tri-C or Newbridge. And they are actually teaching people how to do these jobs, which we don't necessarily do. We're just a connector and refer. Part of the ecosystem effectiveness pillar of our strategic plan is having a view of everything and understanding what works and what doesn't. That is only possible through public-private partnership. And it's why I'm so glad that I think Built Environment is making the case for how that model can work. So a flow through of funds and oversight by us as the hub, but the actual execution expertise coming from organizations like GCP and you, working with small businesses, or ACE working with young people to make sure that they have the actual training skills that they need.
Hello, Michelle.
Hi.
Ronnie Cannon with Towards Employment. The problem when you stand and wait for your question is sometimes it gets answered already.
Oh.
So I'm going to frame it a little bit differently. As you stand on that stage and you speak about the we, if you can speak directly to us in the audience as to what your ask is for us to support you guys as you venture into your next endeavors at Greater Cleveland Works. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. You're already a partner and you're already in this with us, so don't take my answer and try to wiggle out, because we need you guys. Again, I think what is nice about this job, and something I mentioned in the speech, is the expertise and the experience exists in this market. We don't necessarily need to get a new training provider or figure out a different way. We have what we need. We just need it all. We need to work together more and make it all work a little better, I think. So the request is really, it's the things I mentioned, which were primarily, I think, employer-based. What we need from our providers is the trust, which I understand, we all understand on my team, that we have to earn that. It's why we set our values as equity, accountability, and integrity. Equity, integrity, and adaptability, because we have to be a good partner to get good partners.
So we have another text question. With a recession on the horizon, will this require any changes in your priorities and actions?
I don't like to recession prognosticate, but as I mentioned, we have to react to the work that's in front of us. Today, that is a continued gap between labor supply and demand. That might change. I hope it doesn't, because it means a lot of people are out of work. I like low unemployment rates. And we also know that bit by bit, our economy might change locally. We've already seen, like I said, the potential for up to 15,000 federal workers, layoffs at some manufacturers because of tariffs. a recession could be coming. But the way that a workforce board and the way Greater Cleveland Works is designed is we respond to that need in front of us, matching job seekers to employers. That works better when there are higher numbers of job seekers and higher number of employers on both sides of that equation to be a true matching organization. So we will do that if that day comes. We are logistically preparing for things like an influx of job seekers at our center, you know, in terms of the mechanics and is our parking lot big enough, and also for what we anticipate will be an increase in job seekers who need to perform Medicaid work search requirements for continued Medicaid benefits, which is, yeah. If you can't hear it on the radio, there was a boo, which was well earned. Yeah, so we will do more with less, just like we always do.
Hi, Michelle. Since we're doing table shout-outs, I have to give a special shout-out to Table 4. I think we're the best table.
Table 4!
My name is Orlando with the Fund for Economic Future and the Site Readiness, and also a partner of yours. And one thing to kind of piggyback on the child care, well, are you guys doing things currently to address the benefits cliffs and the role that that's going to play once you get people employed, and how do you transition them from public assistance to employment and supports around that?
Yeah, this is one of those times I wish I was on a Zoom so I could hand it over to one of my team members. We have a lot of experts in this room on the benefits cliff. I am not one of them. The state can help us address the benefits cliff, and we can. We can also ensure that workers have information about what will happen to them. We all want people to move into high-paying jobs. We all want that. I think what we need to be very mindful of is benefits like housing, because we don't want people to have to move just for getting a new job. I don't have a great answer for you on everything that's happening on the benefits cliff, but I think it's one of those things like childcare that we've got to address together, and we are going to need some state-level help on changing the dynamics and how it works. Hi.
Hi, Michelle. How are you doing today?
Good.
I'm with Youth Opportunities Unlimited, and one of the part of that pipeline is making sure our high school youth have these opportunities. Mm-hmm. One of the challenges that we have is that we're going to place about 1,500, if not more, students in jobs this summer.
Yep.
And we have increased academies, and so we're changing the focus so that we can be more focused on that career path for that youth.
Yep.
One of the challenges we also face is that the private sector is not coming to the table as fast as I think they should, because we're turning away thousands of youth that have applied for jobs. So how do we get to that point where in addition to the 1,500 to 2,000 students we're going to place, we have another 5,000 that may have applied? We need to fill that void.
Yep. I love that so many students apply for summer internships, and this is probably the millionth summer in a row where we don't have enough spots for how many students want to do it. Thank you to you and everyone at YOU for the work you're doing. The students that do have those summer job experiences have much better outcomes than those who don't. We need a few things. We need more money, like we always do, to pay for more internships. We also need more employers to step up. So going back to my colleague from Community Solutions' question about what employers not having enough workers, it's a lot to ask an employer to invest in their future workforce that might not have a payoff for a few years, but hosting summer interns, having summer interns will benefit your company. It's not charity, it's so that you can build your future workforce. So we need more employer commitments, and we need more money for more summer jobs. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Michelle Rose, for joining us at the City Club, and thanks to all of you for being a part of this as well. Forums like this one are made possible thanks to generous support from individuals not only like all of you, but also including many of you. You can learn more about how to become a guardian of free speech at cityclub.org. Our forum today is part of our workforce development series, which we present in partnership with the Deaconess Foundation. We're grateful for their partnership and support. We'd also like to welcome guests at tables hosted by the Built Environment Collaborative, Cuyahoga County Workforce Funders, Deaconess Foundation, Greater Cleveland Career Consortium, Greater Cleveland Partnership, Greater Cleveland Works, Magnet, Ohio Guidestone, Workforce 360, the Center for Community Solutions Towards Employment, and Youth Opportunities Unlimited. Thank you all so much for being a part of this conversation today. Coming up at the City Club tomorrow, a free forum at the Happy Dog. It's a reporter's roundtable about the impact of new ward maps in our fair city. Oh, I know, right? Very good. Also on Friday, we're partnering with the Cleveland International Film Festival for a special conversation about a documentary called Sally, which is about the astronaut Sally Ride. The Buckeye Flame's Ken Schneck will lead that conversation about what we can learn from the life and legacy of the first woman in space, astronaut Sally Ride, who also turned out to be the first lesbian in space. Also coming up on April 11th, Policy Bridge's Urban Agenda, panel conversation. On Monday, the 14th of April, Congressman Ro Khanna about what he thinks Democrats ought to be doing right now. And then on Thursday, the 17th, State Senator Jerry Serino, who's responsible for the budget. He's responsible for the budget, so we're going to talk to him, because that's what we do at the City Club. If you would like to join us and ask a question, please be sure to buy a ticket. You can find out more about that forum and all our other forums at cityclub.org. That brings us, that was also free speech in every direction. Okay, that brings us to the end of our forum today. Thank you all so much for being a part of it. Have a wonderful day.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.
The ideas expressed in City Club forums are those of the speakers and not of the City Club of Cleveland, IdeaStream Public Media, or their sponsors. Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland Incorporated.